back in the early days of the personal computer industry, many of the most successful people dropped out of college, like Bill Gates, like Steve Jobs, like Steve Wozniak, like Larry Ellison, for a very simple reason. The things that they needed to know how to do just weren't being taught in universities at that time. We were going from a world in computers of these massive machines that were living inside of glass air-conditioned boxes, and these individuals, wanted to build an entirely different idea of computing, which was going to be around the microprocessor. And there were no computing courses that talked about microprocessors and shrink-wrap software. As you think about your decision when you dropped out of Brown University, any regrets?
Not one. When I spent time talking to you about the business and the idea, one of the pieces of advice you gave me was, if it doesn't work, you can always go back. And when you have no downside, why not take a run at it? And it was not too dissimilar from the comments you were just making. I would sit there and I was reading books about other people and other great things that were happening, and just rather do it myself and take a run at it, and rather be read in a book than sitting in a classroom waiting for the world to come to me. I just said, I'll go take a run at it, and haven't looked back ever since. And it's been, it's highly unpopular and takes a ton of resiliency. And I think that's what makes a lot of those entrepreneurs you just mentioned great, because there's so much pressure to change the vision or sell this or do that or build a new product. And the greatest ones don't really care. They're just focused on their vision, their noble cause, changing the world, and they have the fortitude to know if they continue to execute, it'll all take care of itself. And I just want to follow in their footsteps and do something similar in my own way.
So here you are building a truly innovative company. You're right at the heart of Silicon Valley. You know all the other successful leaders of the hottest companies here, and yet you're in one of the most bureaucratic industries possible.
Probably the most.
It's dominated by large corporations that have grown up with an entirely different set of first principles. How do you, as a hot startup company that's growing at an incredible speed, really becoming sizable in revenue and profits, how do you talk to the people who come out of the traditional healthcare industry, and how do they think about you, and will they accept you on the terms that you want to be accepted?
We're not worried about being accepted. I think by its core, we don't fall into some quadrant that a consultant made up, and we just want to focus on the consumer, and we want to focus on building a great business. And so we're going to break a lot of glass doing it, and we don't really need to be accepted, because all the great ones you just mentioned as entrepreneurs, they think differently. They weren't interested in being accepted. They wanted to define a new vision, and they had a new world that was going to be permeated by whether it's a PC or a social network or Dropbox or a new design or how you can get payments with Square. It didn't matter. They had a different vision for the world, and by the nature of entrepreneurship, it's disruptive. It's unpopular. It breaks glass. And we try to embrace that. And if people don't like that on the healthcare side, as long as you build value for the consumer, it'll all take care of itself. And the relationship is not with the health plan or with the employer, it's with the consumer. And that's what's been missing in the healthcare system. And so if you can create a revolution all about the individual, and you can empower them and help them make better decisions, you'll change the world, and you'll change all the healthcare, and all the old school ways of thinking will just fall to the wayside. Just like you saw with Apple, just like you saw with Square or Twitter or LinkedIn. They just disrupted industries because they had a different vision for how technology would create new relationships, and that's what we're trying to do, is reinvent a new relationship.